Hello everyone, this video is on the ego. And the ego gets a lot of bad press. Sometimes we think we need to destroy the ego. But we wouldn't have a body, we wouldn't have a human experience, we wouldn't have an individual experience without having an ego. And we came to experience life as Joe, as Sally, as Ahmed, as Aruna, as Jim, as whoever you've come in to be, as my cat here on the floor came into his body as Chaya, and my snake in the bedroom, he came into his body as Pendragon. And so there happens to be this constriction into an individual sense, which is absolutely fine. There isn't a problem with that. It's when we lose touch with how that individual is connected to everything else and we become selfish. And that can be just a forgetting that happens due to stress. So if we have a very stressful life, if we have a lot of impressions that we're taking in through our eyes, through our ears, through our senses that stress the physiology, if we come in and some people come in, I believe, from a higher vibration. Sometimes when we come into the body, it's stressful being in a human body, and that can lead to some problems, just learning how to be human. And so there can be disruptions, there can be a real loss of connection with everything else because we're not coming from an individual place. I'm going to repeat that because maybe it'll stir up a memory. We're not coming from an individual place. We're coming from a unified place, a space of non-duality. And so when we take on this separation, it's a very brave act to do because it's a little bit alien to be an individual and to have an ego, and it can cause a disruption, and there can be part of us that doesn't like it and feels that we need to destroy it, and the part of us that feels that we need to destroy the ego is a unified memory of being connected and everything at the same time as being an individual. But we don't need to destroy the ego to also be in a unified state. So this is where meditation can come in handy, because the stillness that we connect to in meditation, and if we transcend during meditation, if we are able to move beyond our body, we realize, oh, we're unified with everything, yet we still have a body. So there's a parallel state of being unified with everything, yet knowing there's still this thread of individuality. And when we practice effortless meditation and we keep repeating that process, that knowingness of who we are individually and yet simultaneously everything else gets more solidified. And then we live 200% of life, 100% as a separate individual and 100% connected to everything. And so that's a full life. And what's interesting is people get so caught up in being an individual, which is an illusion, actually. You're not really an individual. And then the individual thinks it needs to get stuff in order to have a full life. And what is the irony of that? Because you can't have a full life being an individual. You can only have a full life when you're connected to everything else unified, while having an individual identity is almost an afterthought. And isn't that interesting? So we're barking at the wrong tree a lot of the time. The ego sends us on a wild, wild goose chase around, chasing everything outside of itself, not realizing that if it's destroying something outside of itself, it's destroying itself, because we're connected to everything. And I will ask you a question now. Why do you think it does that? And if you watch other videos, you might be able to connect the dots, because nothing is wasted, and there is always a reason for everything. The universe doesn't create an ego, doesn't make mistakes. So if there's a discomfort in having one and a wanting to escape from it, there must be an evolutionary purpose to it. And so that can be part of the discovery we go on together. So let's see what else comes through about ego. We can never judge somebody else as being egotistical, because if they are being egotistical, there's a purpose to them being egotistical. There's an evolutionary purpose to them being egotistical. And I'll answer the question in a later video. We have a collective ego that has a lot of shared stress in it. And so this is a very popular theme in my videos. Whatever healing we do individually is shared in the collective. So whenever anyone goes on a spiritual journey and realizes that they're connected to something greater than their individual self, then it's easier for other individuals to also remember that. And I think that the world now is having a de-stressing of its collective ego, and we're in a transitional phase where the ego is sort of surrendering slowly and fighting at the same time to a unified awareness. And so this happens in meditation, where the ego is the master before meditation. And then after meditation, the awareness is the master and the ego just becomes a servant. So there's a big swap that goes on. So in an unenlightened state, the ego's here and the awareness is lost here. And then it swaps. But sometimes there can be fighting going on and stress in the body's getting thrown out, and things that are subconscious that we didn't want to look at come up to be seen and shown to us, that we've been meditating and our demons can get shaken up and the darker parts of ourselves can start to exit. And so in this transitional phase, there can be a little bit of discomfort, but never give up hope. Know that something good is happening. And then when the ego is surrendering, it's okay. It doesn't have to do it straight away. It goes through like a period of, for some people, of taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, 5 steps forward, 1 step back, and kind of shimmying along. But there's an inevitability that the collective ego will collapse and the unified awareness will become the master. And when that happens, there's the possibility of peace on earth. And peace on earth happens with peace within. So if individuals are having an easier time of it, are learning how to transcend, are learning how to cope with their past and free themselves from it, are learning how to heal themselves, then that information is shared in the collective of how to do that. And then collective stress dissolves or reduces. And then the collective ego can just allow the rightful king or queen to get crowned. And that king or queen is unity consciousness. And in unity consciousness, individuality is an afterthought. You're aware that you have a body, but the majority of you is connected to everything else, is in everything else, is invested in everything else as much as it is invested in oneself. And then when we are in a state of unity consciousness, and we can have unrefined states of unity and we can have refined states of unity, and just not really liking to hurt other people is a very unrefined state of unity, because why do we not like to hurt other people? Well, because we realize we're hurting ourselves. And then we can have all sorts of unity consciousness experiences where it gets a bit trippy and it gets everything in between a bit trippy and normal. But once that's all integrated into the physiology, then we can be absolutely, it's not like we lose a personality ourself as an individual, quirky, funny, likes, dislikes, strange habits, whatever it might be, while simultaneously being connected to a stillness. So it's not like you have to choose, I'm going to destroy my ego. Not that you can. This happens spontaneously just from going inwards. You don't have to force it and you can't mood make it. It's a result of stillness coming into every cell of your body. And you can't force that stillness into your body. Through some grace, it happens to you, or through an effortless meditation practice, it's pretty likely to happen to you. But we can't light candles and incense and do chimes and force it in. That's not how it works. And just through sometimes living life and going through painful experiences, we can have these shifts and the ego can collapse. So that's another way of doing it. I mean, if you live life long enough, it's sometimes hard to have an ego, a delusional ego kept intact, unless you have a really powerful underlying structure, delusional structure to keep it in place. And so I'll do other videos on that. But I know this is quite a big video, and maybe you want to listen to it again or meditate and then come and listen to it again. Sometimes these things can be a bit of a lot to digest. And so you might want to do it in little doses. You don't need to rush. If you rush, you miss the happiness along the way and the relaxing journey that it is. And so there are meditations on this channel. I would love for you to try them out and let me know how you get along. And as long as you're doing them effortlessly, then they'll work. And I shall do another video soon. Thank you.